Welcome back. Business and sports are intersecting a lot this week, but there's a potential sports business story locally on the horizon that could catapult the region onto the international sports stage. The 2024 Olympics is what we're talking about. More and more big names from the region are jumping on board the chance to support an Olympic bid. Joining us now to discuss this and other business stories, Jim Dinegar, the head of the Greater Washington Board of Trade, and Doug Fruehling, editor-in-chief at the Washington Business Journal. Great having both of you here. Jim, some big names attached to this effort, Ted Leonsis, Mark Ein, and others. What is it about the 2024 Games that has people excited?
Well, I think it reflects the fact that we actually have these big names and others. This region is a lot different in the past even 10 years. Our baseball team's in first place, the soccer team's in first place. We're a perennial contender. The Greater Washington region is different than it was just a few years ago, and so perhaps it really is our time to host the World Games.
If we win, and we've still got to go through a couple different stages of elimination, so to speak, if the Games were to come to the Washington region, Baltimore probably included, in 2024, what do we get?
Well, big opportunity. You know, it redefined in large part what London means to the world and the opportunities for London. It's not necessarily Beijing, though on the other hand, it did a very nice job for reestablishing Beijing's face. It could do that to the Greater Washington region and for the Greater Washington region. I'd say that we're more than a government town, but that's how we're known, except we're the home to Marriott and Hilton and interstate hotels and choice hotels. We're this home for great media companies all around, but we don't get that kind of credit. When the Olympics come here, it reestablishes this familiarity with Greater Washington, and it would be an economic boom.
Doug, what do you see as the pluses and potential downsides?
Well, it really is, like Jim says, a chance to redefine what Washington means to the world. Anyone who has lived here any number of years has seen the dramatic changes that we've gone through in 10 or 15 years, the economic boom here. So it's all pluses. I think the business community thinks it's all pluses. It will create jobs. It will have an economic impact. There's always going to be a debate about the economic impact of a stadium, of the Olympics, of anything like that, and how much public money should be put into it. But it definitely will have an economic impact, and it will be good for the region.
This would have an impact on in many ways. There would be the cost impact, there would be the inconvenience. There are the things we wouldn't be able to do in a wide range of areas with the dollars that get allocated to an Olympic bid. Does the region deserve a conversation about the decision to go or not go before we get too far down the road? It feels like the corporate interests have decided for us that we're doing this.
I think that's how it works. And the decision has been made that we're going for it. And if we are selected the U.S. bid city, which will be a great thing, we'll find out hopefully early next year. But yeah, the businesses are coalescing, and regardless of whether we win or not, this is a movement that's starting.
Jim, same question for you. Is the region owed some type of discussion before dollars are committed and commitments are made? I mean, are we just all bystanders in this?
No, I'd say there's a very complex process that's laid down by the U.S. Olympics Committee, but this wasn't the business community saying, hey, bring the Olympics here. The business community was invited to participate with the mayor of Washington when he received the letter about expressing interest. So now there's been interest expressed. We're down to 4 cities in the United States, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Boston, and here. And you really do have to do the entire range of careful due diligence. The Board of Trade, on behalf of the business community and the broader community, did the due diligence to make sure you don't end up bankrupt, that it doesn't expend monies that should be used elsewhere, but instead that it's for the greater good. Having said that, these business leaders and many others out of the sports arenas and the rest are looking at this with their best foot forward, but there's no decision yet that it's going to be here. That's a collaborative effort.
The best games use facilities that already exist, and to the extent that you have to build something, they have a reuse after the games come and go. Who pays for whatever does end up being needed, whether it's a stadium, an Olympic Village, what have you?
You know, there's a lot of money that goes into this, and I would say it's some of it's private contributions, and so Russ Ramsey, leading the charge over as the chairman of the DC 2024 or the Washington 2024 bid, is very capable of raising significant sums of money. He chaired George Washington University's board. They're going out for $1 billion fundraising effort. I mean, the man's got the ability to do that, and when you go out and raise that money, it's not just your friends and family, it's Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, it's Nike, it's Visa, and it's others. And then there's public-private partnerships for the big infrastructure.
Let's shift gears and talk about the chaos that seems to be occurring on all four corners of the globe. How are local business leaders looking at Ebola, ISIL, the upheaval, and the, I think you can say, chaos that's taking place just about everywhere?
Well, chaos is never good for business. It causes jitters, it makes people pull back on decisions. So there's always a psychological impact of what's going on. That said, Washington has always been in a unique place when there is crisis in the world. We, as awful as it is to say, tend to benefit through increased government spending, be it research, military spending, things like that. So again, it's not a nice thing to say, but we do tend to benefit.
What are you hearing?
Well, I would say that we do chaos very well. It's kind of a specialty, unfortunately, and in that regard, I think that the significant hits associated with sequestration are going to be relooked. We just passed legislation out of the Senate and the House to support this call for the war on ISIS, and beyond that, $5 billion is the start on Ebola. They've shut down a country right now for 3 days to start to eradicate this or try to get a handle on it, and it really, that specifically, has spun out of control. So I do think that it's a time to dust off the emergency preparedness plans and more. Board of Trade's hosting a program with the Red Cross and the Council of Governments on the 30th to highlight the fact that businesses need to re-examine their emergency preparedness plans.
Politico noted this week that if Scotland had voted for independence, it could have been a cataclysm that unleashed chaos in the global markets, destabilizing the U.S.'s top ally at the worst possible time, and sending Europe and possibly the world spiraling back into a recession. Did we dodge a bullet with the no vote on Scottish succession, on Scottish independence?
Well, I would say that turmoil is never good, as Doug said. That sort of upheaval, you know, people want things calmed down. They want some normalcy, sort of return to the system, and it's not normal. Everything's up in sort of flux on a regular basis. This one, it's nice that that was put to the side. It won't come up again. We can get on with the business of dealing with Great Britain as the partner they've been over the years.
Do you share that view?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
One of the things that was pretty cool was D.C. being voted not that long ago, one of the coolest cities in the country. You look at Apple and the excitement about their latest, greatest device. There may be a connection between the two.
Which reminds me, I need to go get in line for my new phone. Yeah.
Pack some food. You're going to be there a while.
Yeah.
We're seeing some long lines, and this region is blessed. If you like this product, there are places to buy them locally.
Well, we have more than 8 stores, Apple stores. They average $50 million each per year, and it's 3% of the entire Apple store holdings in the United States. I would say, like Starbucks, there's sort of a cool factor to having Apple in your neighborhood, and then there's maybe Apple there because it's a cool neighborhood. Greater Washington is a cooler place than we all give ourselves credit for. I'm not putting myself in the cool camp, but public transportation, a very young population, a very highly educated population. Bike share, Zipcar, Car2Go, the highest, I would say, adoption rate of Uber within the country. It's all here.
No question that when you look at who are the magnets for young people, and young people do really bring a lot of energy with them, Washington, Boston, right up there with all the big cities of the country. Doug Fruehling, Jim Dinegar, thanks very much.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.